The Disruptive Innovation Festival is an online open access event that invites thought leaders, businesses, makers and learners to explore the question, the economy is changing, what do I need to know, experience and do? Thank you for taking part and joining this Ellen MacArthur Foundation interactive webinar, exploring the crucial role of SMEs in the circular economy. I am Maya Johannesson and I'm delighted to be hosting today's session. The circular economy is a 1.8 trillion euro opportunity just for Europe alone. And the business case is compelling. Transition towards circular economy business models are likely to realize both short and long-term benefits, thus fostering business competitiveness and resilience. Due to this, many companies are already embarking on these new opportunities, but the road towards circular is not always straightforward. Especially small and medium-sized companies face a broad range of challenges and barriers, hindering them to grow and innovate. In this session, we will learn more about what those barriers and challenges can be, and also more specifically how public authorities can work to address these. This session today is divided into 3 sections. Our first guest from the City of London will tell us about both why and how London engages SMEs in the circular economy. And then we will deep dive into 2 concrete business examples for 2 SMEs from London. This is an interactive session, so please put your comments and questions to our guest as the session develops, and I'll try to feed them as we go along. Then let's move to our guest from London. Here we have Claire Olorenshaw, your Circular Economy Manager from the London Waste and Recycling Board, and Doug Simpson, Principal Policy and Programme Officer from the Greater London Authority. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, good morning.
Maybe just to jump into it, Claire, you can maybe address my first burning question. Why is it that London as a city are interested in using resources in supporting SMEs embarking on circular economy opportunities?
Well, we see SMEs as really a route to achieving circular economy in London. We can see that SMEs are innovative and very agile in the way that they work. We're very keen to work with big businesses, as we do with through the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. But big businesses are changing and are able to change. But we see SMEs changing and adapting to the circular economy much more quickly. And also we see big companies looking to SMEs to seek out their innovation and energy for the circular economy. So, for example, Avis looked to and acquired Zipcar a couple of years ago because they could see an innovative new business model that they were interested in taking forward. We're very lucky in London. It's a very entrepreneurial city. Of the 600,000 new startups in the UK last year, a third of those happened in London. Oh, wow. And we feel if we can channel some of those startups into the circular economy, then that will be a big step forward for London and actually potentially much wider.
Yeah, that's really interesting. 1/3, that's quite a lot. So why is it that you would not leave this just to the companies to figure out on their own? Why are the public authorities getting involved directly?
Well, I think it is happening already, and we'll be hearing shortly from a couple of great London-based companies who have already seen the opportunity, both for a business opportunity and to help the environment and social and create social opportunities as well. But I think there are others out there that we could help encourage. And as you mentioned in your introduction, there are a lot of challenges sometimes to circular economy business models that we feel as a public authority we could help overcome, create a situation where we can try and take down some those barriers, and certainly that's what we'd like to work towards.
Yeah. So you are from two different agencies within the City of London. So how do you work together around this topic? Maybe Doug, you want to...
Yeah, if I kick off. So I work on behalf of the Mayor of London, and so the circular economy was something that we got excited about in the previous Mayor administration, which the focus is on jobs and growth. So it was a nice tie in there with those priorities. And our function now with the new Mayor, which was elected in May, Sadiq Khan, we see circular economy as an important pathway to try and help deliver on some of his ambitions around helping London to be a zero carbon city by 2050, to be a beacon of best practice for businesses, and also to create a cleaner and fairer and more inclusive city, and that's becoming much more relevant, I think, now, not just for London, but for businesses and local authorities. And now our main function is policy design, so we want to try to, through our plan making and policy design process, try and support and promote good business examples of how we can help businesses to be more circular, to reduce the resource consumption, and to encourage new industries that allow the recovery and reuse of materials, to help those materials stay in use for as long as possible. And public procurement plays a huge role in that too. There are huge assets that public bodies own that we can influence their procurement activities, and the link with SMEs is they can provide some of those solutions to help public authorities to deliver social environmental value as well as value for money.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting to hear also just that you have their mayoral support on this agenda. That's quite big. So how is LWOP then engaged in this and in the work around this together with the GLA?
Doug, do you want to start with our current?
Yes, with our current program, we sort of split ourselves between a design and delivery mode, if you like. So with the London Circular Programme, we support businesses who are already adopting circular type business models to scale up and grow. And then the link in there is to try and provide a pipeline of businesses to programs that the London Waste and Recycling Board lead to help those businesses grow even further. Do you want to talk a bit about that side of things?
Yeah, so we have a vision at the London Waste and Recycling Board to help circular businesses from start-up to scale up. And our first part of that vision, so some of this is work in progress and some of it is in place. So a work in progress is starting to think with stakeholders about a circular economy accelerator, incubator, hybrid. So actually taking people with really great ideas and supporting them from intensively for a first period of time, maybe 3-4 months, and then providing them with support, a lesser level of support, but still, and creating the right environment for their businesses and support to grow and flourish over maybe 12 months or 18 months. To feed people into that process, we've actually something that is happening on the 6th of December this year. We're doing a hackathon on built environment and food challenges with Climate Kick. And we see this as a good way, a very easy way, quick way of seeing what ideas are out there in London currently that we could feed into our accelerator incubator that we hope will start next year. Following that, we know that access to finance is a big barrier for SMEs, and we're trying to look at both venture capital and growth capital funds that LWOP want to invest in together with other partners to give routes to finance for SMEs in the circular economy. And finally, we have a project starting in January next year, which will offer hands-on business support to London SMEs working in this area, but I'm going to save the detail of that for the end of our session.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot going on. It's quite impressive. I think also it's amazing working with London within the C100, seeing someone really leading the way. So I also recommend the viewers, if you want to learn more about what London is doing, also broad on the circular economy topic, to go to London Waste and Recycling Board's webpage, because there is also lots more details around their circular economy projects and programs. One quick question before we move on to our concrete SME examples. So you're working directly with small companies. What are some of the general challenges or barriers that you see SMEs are facing? You mentioned financial barriers, but are there other challenges?
Yeah, so when we pull together the group of businesses that we work with now, and there are 4, and you'll hear about 2 later, we went through a session of identifying where the challenges are that we as an organisation could help address, where we could best add value, really. Mm-hmm. And there were 3 or 4 main ones that came out. The first was really around supply chain, actually getting hold of organisations that can supply materials in a sustainable way at small scales. That's not too expensive. That's a real challenge. Another one was around how to access public service contracts, public procurement frameworks in particular. It can be quite difficult, a lot of red tape to get on those frameworks. And then also funding. So when there's a small business or a startup has a good idea, to get money to try and get it through to a pilot stage and then to commercialisation. So we tried to structure our support around those 3 challenges. So now with our business program, it's the first year that we've done this, we're learning ourselves, but essentially we deliver a service under 4 sort of key themes. The first is facilitating access to support and resources, advice and funding, and part of that is through our membership to the CE100. There's a bit of a plug for the foundation there. Secondly, we try to provide access to public service contracts. So the idea that you can allow a gateway for small businesses to get on, to make themselves aware to public authorities that are looking to procure services to help them deliver on social and environmental value in particular. So trying to provide that gateway. Thirdly is around promotions. We can promote all the good things that the businesses are doing through our engagement channels and through our other programs supporting businesses. And then finally, we have a bit of funding that we provide to help mainly around research projects or development ideas that the business has that allows them to become even more circular.
We will learn more about some of these research projects as the SMEs that we're going to talk with have got some grants from that as well.
The spotlight for sure, yeah.
Well, I think we're going to hold it there. We will have a few minutes in the end to deep dive on your plans going ahead. But I think this is really interesting to learn that even though we're talking about private companies, there is a huge public interest in promoting these and supporting these companies to succeed. And great to hear that in London that support is also coming from above, creating lots of traction. We will now move on to our first SME, which is the Restart project. But first, we will give you a short introduction to what it is that they do.
The Restart project is a London-based social enterprise and charity helping people to realize the problems around electronic waste and the way we can change it as individuals, communities and companies as well. Most people actually care about having their products last, except they often find barriers to getting this happen in real life, such as the cost of commercial repair, the availability of parts, the lack of information. The Restart project runs events, we call them Restart parties, that help people reduce such barriers. We host events where people come and learn through being paired with a repair coach that shows them the way and inspire them to learn more about repair. So we do repair a lot of products, but what's more important is we inspire people to lose some of their fear around whether a product can be repaired or not. Up until now, the Restart project's business model has revolved around providing paid events to organizations that value bringing access to a repair experience to their members. So this has included retailers, businesses, online businesses, local authorities, universities, cultural institutions and the likes. And while this continues to grow, in order to achieve greater sustainability over time, we're looking at combining our increasing understanding of the electronics sector, with the data that we are collecting around the failure rates of products and the reliability of products and the challenges and bottlenecks that exist in this sector, to be able to provide advice to companies, regulators and other players going forward on future products and on reducing some of the barriers that at the moment reduce repairability of products.
So that was the introduction to the Restart project, and I think from personally really interesting to see how a company has decided to get engaged and change the entire electronic sector. Now I want to introduce our next speaker, Ugo Valerie from the Restart project, the co-founder. You joined the Doc on the Couch. First of all, I would love to hear about your motivation around starting up this business and why you chose this specific business model.
So thanks for having me. Both myself and my co-founder Janet Gunter have had extensive experience of working abroad in countries where access to a mobile phone or a computer could actually make a massive difference. And we experienced firsthand that people take care of their devices, enjoy maintenance and repair, and would not throw something away as easily as we do here in UK or in Europe anyway. And so when we moved back and we met, we both were really disconcerted about the amount of stuff that people throw away on a daily basis, just without trying to see if anything could be done. We live in a society that tends to be extremely fast-paced, where people don't even think that repair is an option, and we wanted to change that. And we chose to be a not-for-profit organization, and specifically a social enterprise registered as a charity, because we believe that we want to make a difference in an inclusive and plural way, not by playing a commercial role, but hopefully enabling, with our example and with our inspiration, return to a much broader repair economy, including a commercial one.
So, based on the way that you work and the specific business that you have set up, what was the main challenges that you met when you wanted to kick off your company?
So when we started, this was still a very emerging field. There wasn't so much discussion about planned obsolescence, as the media likes to frame it, or about the repair economy. So initially people just thought that we were a bit crazy and that we were just amateurs in a sense. But we demonstrated that actually there is a massive demand from the public. People are extremely frustrated by the lack of repairability options for all their small electrical and electronics. And they do want things to last. And there is a massive disconnect between the products that are offered by most manufacturers and the desires of most people. They are not just fanboys looking for the next best future gadget, but want things that work and that are reliable. So our challenge was that, creating this conversation and criticizing not innovation, but criticizing the lack of positive innovation coming from these players. And obviously funding, because as a small, just started organization, we didn't have access to any real funding. So we looked for some initial seed funding from foundations and the likes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe, Doc, you can explain a bit around why and how London then have engaged with the Restart project.
Yes, so I think two things really particularly interested us about Ugo's work, and it actually started, I think, with the London Leaders program. Ugo's one of our London leaders, so he's been on our books for a while, I think, now. And what we wanted to do, I suppose, from a circular economy perspective and a waste resource efficiency perspective, we're quite excited about the culture and the behaviour change that this sort of project drives. The idea of getting back to a repair culture, which I think we did used to have. I remember growing up with more of a sort of repair culture, and I think it's sort of now gone to more of a throwaway type of culture. So that's one thing that we like about it. And the second thing is around Ugo's ambition to really spread what he's doing across London, potentially nationally. I'm not too sure of his ambitions yet, but the idea of having these networks, a repair distribution, if you like, network across London, to allow more materials to be recovered and reused and potentially recycled, obviously will help London become a more resource efficient city and to boost its reuse and recycling rates. So very excited to have him on board, and I think we're getting a lot of benefit from his involvement.
Yeah. So you mentioned the London Leaders Program. Maybe you can elaborate on like what that specifically is for the viewers.
I can certainly give it a try. It's led by some of my colleagues, but generally it's about finding businesses that are doing some really innovative stuff around environmental and social value. And Alana, another of our guests today, is also a London leader. And that was taken from work led out of the London Sustainable Development Commission, which is an area of the Greater London Authority, who are actually redesigning their work program now. And it's been going on for a number of years. You might be able to fill in another 5 or 6 years. So it has actually carried over 2 or 3 mayoral administrations, so it has some legacy to it. So this is basically a value-added service we've tried to bring to the London Leaders Program as well.
I actually just got a question here that maybe for both of you or Ugo. Is the pace of change in the electronic sector a major barrier, as people always want the latest technology?
So our experience is that there's probably 2 types of users. There's a small minority that want the latest and the greatest, but this minority is normally people whose expectations are voiced massively by marketers or by the media, and that kind of reflects this short circuit around big announcement of new products and creating a big deal out of anything that comes out of from the main manufacturers. But most people that we meet, at least, actually care about product durability, about being able to change the battery when it stops working without having to throw away the whole device. And also, there's been quite a lot of misconception, we believe, around focusing so much of our attention on the mobile phone, the smartphone, as the number 1 product that we should look at. And sure, there's been more innovation for smartphones until recently, which meant that people wanted to aspire to a new product. But the same people that might change mobile every other year, they're not necessarily interested in changing all of their other products so often. So yes, challenges are there in terms of the push for more innovation, but we'd like to see more open innovation, more modular and upgradable products, as opposed to products that are often impossible to take apart due to miniaturization.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. Like, as you say, like, we have some things that we change a lot, but I mean, I don't need to change my washing machine or my calculator or whatever every other year. Or, that's a good point. We have a few minutes left, so I thought it would be great to just learn more about this research project that you got grant for. What is that about?
Also, thanks to our collaboration with London, first of all, we've been able to work with the London Waste and Recycling Board, providing them with a tour of London, as we call it, where we're visiting 13 boroughs in London between the end of October and the early December, spreading the message around the repair and repairability by doing pop-up events, and that's been great. And also, I wanted to remind Doug that actually we are supporting groups already in 9 other countries, and Oslo, Norway, is the next to get started next week. So this is a growing movement. But basically, we know that community repair is just one part of this picture. And while we like to repair and use pop-up events to inspire people to think about repair differently, we want to see the re-emergence of real commercial repair sector that can actually function day in, day out, every day, that people can refer to and trust. So we started a project with the East London Waste Authority, and the GLA has contributed to supporting it in trying to map where repair options still exist for all the small electrical and electronics that we use on our daily life. We will be publishing our initial findings before the end of the year. And what we're seeing is that there is a massive opportunity for businesses to be more open and more communicative about their repair that they do, and provide more support that will help consumers feel more confident that they can actually get the repair service they need. I think there is a lot of work that needs to happen, and I think that's the work that London could do as a pioneer city in bringing back the repair culture, but also bringing it back in a way that provides more concrete economic opportunities for businesses providing repair services.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we unfortunately have to end here, but I think there's so much more we could learn from your company and your journey. Specifically, I found this very interesting that that we now have a company here, like creating a movement, and like as you say, are now engaged in 9 countries. That's quite impressive. We will now move on to our next SME, which is working in a completely different sector. But first, here is a short introduction.
We make fruit snacks from fruit that would otherwise go to waste. Snack really started in London. We were going on our bikes to the wholesale markets, New Covent Garden Market, New Spitalfield Market, at the end of the trading day, talking with the traders there and seeing what they weren't able to sell, and then taking that and processing it in a rented kitchen. And then as we saw that the idea was scalable and people liked our product but also liked our story, we figured we were looking for ways to scale up.
So this is the problem that we have. About 2 months ago, we had a hailstorm that started over there, finished around about here. But in that time, it managed to pepper every single apple that we have in this orchard. Now there's nothing wrong with the apple, but it's got these nasty little marks on them that mean that people probably won't buy them. So we need to find another use for them, and luckily that's when Michael came around.
So instead of the farmer leaving them in the orchard and not harvesting them, we pay them to harvest the produce for us, and we can then use it to make our fruit snacks. We also work with pack houses where they're having to grade out produce, and normally that's just being discarded. And so instead of that being discarded because it's not quite right for the supermarket shelf, we buy it and use it for our produce. One of the challenges around the food aspect is that we produce in the UK, and so we want to use UK produce and tackle food waste in the UK, whereas most of these kind of dried fruit products are produced in countries further afield, often low labour cost countries. So we have a challenge in terms of our product being slightly more expensive because it's made here in the UK. In terms of our packaging, we've just moved to compostable packaging, so I think a huge step forwards in supporting the kind of principles of the circular economy, and we're the first company to bring this type of material to the UK market. Again, here the packaging is more expensive, but we felt that this was a really important step in terms of we are now tackling food waste, and we're also tackling packaging waste, and making sure that nutrients and all the resources are fed back into the economy as opposed to just ending up in a landfill.
So now Ilana Taub from The Snack has just joined us in the couch. Welcome and thank you very much for joining. Great video, and interesting to see your co-founder Michael introduce your company. My first question is, so you chosen to work within the food sector. Was that like a sector you were comfortable and like experienced with working before? Or how did you come into wanting to create this company?
Yeah, no, not at all. So Mike and I had not worked in food whatsoever before. We had no experience in the food industry or food manufacturing or anything like that. We have like business and sustainability backgrounds. But for different reasons, we were both really interested in the food system, and saw that the food system was one of the, I mean, there are a lot of systems that are important, energy, whatever, but food we saw as one of the most important that we could try and create change in. Both because the food system has a massive impact environmentally and socially, but also because it's actually something that we all interact with every day of our lives. So actually there's quite a lot of opportunities to reach out to people and to get messages across about, you know, sustainability or doing things differently. And then particularly food waste, I mean, we saw that as, you know, a massive issue that we felt we could do something quite quickly on, or have an impact, like quite directly, as opposed to, you know, something that would need much bigger investment or experience. We felt like we could get our hands on it quite quickly.
Yeah, on a global scale, around 30% of all food is actually wasted before it gets to the consumer. So I think this is a huge area where there are many opportunities for businesses to tap into. And you're in a really interesting case of doing it. And I think, so what's also very interesting about your company, so you mentioned in the video that you started out with having traditional packaging, but then chose to do some adjustments and also change that part of your product. What was the journey towards this? Was it easy, or to just introduce a new type of packaging, or what kind of challenges did you meet?
I think it's been one of our main challenges since the beginning. So I could show you, we have like an evolution of packaging that goes through like 5 different things. So I think from the beginning we try to find something more sustainable, but there's obviously a lot of criteria that you need to consider. One of them obviously is the cost, and compostable packaging is more expensive than just a traditional plastic film. And then there's, I guess the most important with food is like is it food safe, and what kind of shelf life it has. And the packaging that we introduced wasn't available actually when we started packing our snacks. And so yeah, it's been quite a long journey of trying to find a packaging solution that works, that has a 12-month shelf life, that can have the kind of printability that we need, and you know, getting technical, that can get packed with the feeding tubes and all sorts of things. So technically, financially, and also from like a aesthetics point of view, it has to like come together so you have something that works just like a traditional plastic film, but that is compostable.
So Doug, how has GLA then worked with Snacked? Have you been engaged in some of these, like working with these challenges, or how have you been supporting them in their business development process?
Yes, so one of the challenges that actually Alana identified was around the supply chain and getting products and packaging in at the right price that aligns with the values of the company. And also, as I said before, Alana is one of our London leaders, so we had a relationship there beforehand. But I think also Alana represents our sort of food interests, if you like, in the Circular Business Program, which is a huge area for us. Everyone's always horrified about the amount of food waste that we throw away. But I think the really interesting bit with Alana's business is that it's about surplus food and diverting surplus food to good purposes. So it's product that's completely fine to consume, and that's a really exciting marketplace, I think, to operate in, as opposed to dealing with a waste product, which can only go to certain outlets. So we see it as a good opportunity to promote what people can do with surplus product that might just not look the right shape or size to be able to be displayed on fruit shelves. It's actually, it can be put into other products which can be consumed in different ways, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah. I have a quick question from our audience. It's Fred asking, the food waste supply is probably not very consistent and steady. Isn't it a problem for an industrial production? So that would be a question for you, Alana.
Yeah. Yes and no, actually, because we import we use fruit, and we use a limited amount of fruit in our snacks in terms of varieties. And actually that fruit is more or less available all year round, because as consumers we're used to having, bananas on shelves 365 days a year, apples, whatever. And actually there's also very easy ways to store fruit. So for example, we saved 100 tons from apple. Well, actually the apples that were in the video, we can store those for months, just in a cold store, and they will keep for 6, 8, 9 months. And actually, apples and pears that you eat in the supermarket throughout the year, if they're British apples, they've been harvested in October or November. So the fruit is available. You just, I guess, have to be a bit more creative than a traditional business in how you use it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I think we have some more questions, but we won't have time to answer them. Yeah. But if they're put in the chat, you can actually also go and reply to them afterwards, after the session.
Sure.
Now we will have a short break, because this is not the only session going on in the Disruptive Innovation Festival. We have hundreds of other sessions going on, and my colleague Emma Fromberg would like to give you some examples of some great session that might be of your interest to watch after in this session.
Yes, Maya, we have a lot of sessions coming up today. Just to go through a few ones. First, a session at 2 GMT from James Ball. Then at 3 GMT, if you want to learn more about what is the circular economy, you can join this session together with Ken Webster. And then on 5 GMT, you'll learn more about framing together with Scott London. If you missed the session and you want to catch up, sign in with your MyDiff account and you can even catch up after the diff. If you like this session, you can also watch the Drivers of Change because they also talked about SMEs. Then don't forget to tweet using #ThinkDiff and watch our brand new interactive graphics on the Diff website. So if you go to the search bar and you type in interactive graphics, you will see a range of sessions that have those and they look really cool. Back to you, Maya.
Thank you very much, Emma. And I will definitely tune in on the Drivers for Change. This is also a great session just to get some good arguments if you want to convince your mom, your boss about why is it that we need change. Then magically Claire has reappeared, like squeezed into the couch. Because we would love to hear just a few final words from you around London's plan going ahead, both on the SME topic, but maybe also broad on London's work on the circular economy.
Thanks, Mayor. I really just wanted to spend a few moments talking about our new project, which we've called Advance London, which is very much focused on SMEs and looking at supporting existing circular economy businesses to scale up, but also looking at more traditional SMEs to think about how they could transition to a more circular economy. So we've just got our team in place to do this. So we'll have a team of 5 people working in London from January on this. And we'd be really keen to hear from SMEs in London who would might be interested in taking part. Also, we'd like to talk to bigger companies who might be interested in sharing with us details of their supply chain in London, who we could work with, and they could benefit from the work we could do with their supply chain as well.
Yeah.
It's quite exciting. We're going to be creating a network of SMEs that we're working within London to do so they can people can talk to each other and share ideas and inspiration and what works and what doesn't work as well, which we hope will be helpful in creating this kind of movement of circular economy SMEs in London.
Yeah.
Of course, the SME work fits into our bigger picture of our circular economy route map for London. We're trying to create an environment for where circular economy can flourish in London, and we are putting forward our first ideas on that in a route map, which will be published in January next year. But we're already doing a lot of work within it, and but we hope to have a lot more practical projects coming from that in the coming months, and seeking stakeholders to work with all the time to look how we can make this happen.
Yeah, thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all that we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining and sharing your experience and thoughts with us. Personally, I think it's quite inspiring to see how both companies and public authorities can work together and be united around the same goal in the end, actually, just to create a resilient economy where we can have flourishing small companies and grow innovation.
Just before we shut off, can I do a quick shout out to 2 other businesses that are on the programme?
Yes, of course.
GlobeChain, which is the online reuse platform, and Unpackaged, which is a reusable packaging SME. Their videos are also on the link to this session, so please do see what they do as well.
Yeah. And if there's any SMEs out there located in London, of course, as Claire said, reach out and learn more about their new business support programs. That sounds really interesting. This is all for today. Hope to see you at our next sessions, maybe the one Emma recommended. Thank you very much for joining and feeding in your great questions.